involved with anything, call CID. I am not to judge anyone. Just come out, please. I can't even bury my daughter.
19-year-old Misha Johnson was 6 months pregnant, on the brink of motherhood, marriage, and a new life filled with hope. But just as her future was taking shape, it was violently stolen. On July 12, 2024, Misha will vanish without a trace. Her husband, he wouldn't report her missing for 19 agonizing days. And then, nearly a year later, on June 3, 2025, he told police something chilling. Misha hadn't just disappeared. She'd been killed and left unrecognizable, hidden behind the tightly guarded gates of a military base in Hawaii. This is the life and death of Misha Johnson. And tragically, her story echoes one we've already covered on this channel. Do you remember Shatarika Danielle Smith? She was a kind-hearted woman who dreamed of a beautiful wedding and a life filled with love. Her relationship seemed perfect from the outside with a man who seemed to be made from heaven. But that very man would turn out to be the one who would ultimately end her life. If you haven't watched that case yet, I'll link it at the end of this video. It's a chillingly similar story you won't want to miss. Born in 2005, Misha Mabeline Kalohalani Johnson was raised in the warmth of Hawaii, though her family's roots extended proudly back to the Philippines. She was deeply connected to both cultures, embracing tradition while growing up in the modern rhythms of island life. At the heart of her world was her sister, Mariana. The two were more than siblings, they were best friends. They shared everything from late-night talks to inside jokes, from dreams of traveling to hopes for their futures. To those who knew her, Misha was a calming presence. She had a soft voice, a big heart, and a way of making people feel understood. Her friends said being around her felt safe. No one could have imagined that Misha would one day be the one in danger. Misha was thoughtful and creative. She found joy in music and loved journaling, and also had a keen eye for aesthetics, posting glimpses of her quiet, colorful life on social media. She dreamed of college and independence, of making a life grounded in peace and purpose. But everything changed the moment she crossed paths with a man in uniform. In June 2023, Misha Mabeline Kalohalani Johnson met 29-year-old Dwayne Arthur Johnson, II, U.S. Army soldier newly stationed at Schofield Barracks in Hawaii. Dwayne had only recently begun his military career. He enlisted in November 2022, completing basic and advanced individual training at Fort Moore, Georgia, before being assigned to Hawaii as a cavalry scout with the 3rd Infantry Brigade Combat Team, 25th Infantry Division. He was adjusting to military life himself, learning the routines, the discipline, the isolation. Originally from Frederick, Maryland, Dwayne was raised in a religious household and attended a Christian school. His parents were active in their church, and he'd once been described as polite and focused by former teachers. He graduated from Thomas Johnson High School and had a history of involvement in community service projects during his teen years. To those who knew him back home, Dwayne's decision to join the Army wasn't surprising. It aligned with the image of a young man seeking structure, purpose, and the chance to be part of something greater than himself. So, when Dwayne arrived in Hawaii, fresh from training and eager to settle into his new life, he met Misha and things moved fast. Misha, just 18 at the time, was stepping into adulthood with wide eyes and an open heart. She had dreams of pursuing higher education and starting a family one day. Dwayne, older and in uniform, seemed like someone who could offer her both stability and protection. The two connected quickly, spending long days together on the island, taking beach walks, sharing meals, and posting affectionate photos on social media. To those around her, Misha seemed smitten. She believed she'd found someone she could build with, a man who promised to love and support her. To those on the outside, their relationship looked like a match made in heaven. The two were nearly inseparable. Within weeks, they were posting smiling selfies, holding hands at the beach, and celebrating small milestones together. Misha, known for her gentle spirit and big heart, appeared to believe she had found what she had always dreamed of. What began as a fast-moving romance was about to take an even bigger leap. On November 21, 2023, the pair would celebrate Misha's 19th birthday in a big way. The two tied the knot, and Misha was overjoyed to become Mrs. Johnson. They were married soon after, just months into knowing each other. For Misha, it was a new beginning, becoming a wife and adjusting to military life. After their marriage, Misha moved into the military housing at Schofield Barracks with Dwayne. It was a drastic change from her familiar surroundings, away from her family. But she would soon learn that military life came with its own pressures. Life on base was structured and quiet, with strict rules and a sense of isolation that could feel overwhelming for someone so young. Misha was just 18, barely out of high school, and now navigating a world of military schedules, protocols, and limited social outlets. At first, she tried to embrace it. She started making TikToks and Instagram posts filled with smiling selfies and videos of the two laughing and cuddling. From the outside, it looked like she had adjusted well. Until a single moment changed her future forever. Misha found out she was pregnant. Misha was overjoyed. At just 18 years old, she embraced the journey of motherhood with a full heart. It was her first child, and she poured all her energy into preparing for their arrival. She even picked a name, Armani Kiana. She began decorating their home with baby-themed touches, turning their military housing into a cozy space full of warmth and anticipation. Misha shared regular baby bump updates with friends and family, posting photos and journaling her experiences. She often spoke about her dreams for her child, how she wanted to give them the childhood she always cherished.
Raising a daughter, doing the hair, doing makeup, dressing it up, it would be her little mini-me.
Despite her youth, those around her said she was ready, determined to be a good mother, eager to create a safe and loving home. But that very life she was just beginning to build would be so violently stolen. On July 12, 2024, that morning, Misha and Dwayne were supposed to attend a family gathering, a normal day ahead, or so it seemed. But inside their home at Schofield Barracks, tension was building. According to later court testimony, the couple had gotten into a heated argument. Misha had confronted Johnson with suspicions of infidelity, something that had been weighing on her. Dwayne would later tell investigators that when Misha shouted, "Our baby will never know who you are," something in him broke. In what he described as a fit of passion, he grabbed a machete from the bedroom, a weapon they kept for protection, and struck Misha in the head. The blade became lodged in her skull. She hit the floor immediately, he testified. "I just snapped. I wasn't thinking." What began as a simple disagreement turned into an irreversible act of violence. Misha, nearly full term in her pregnancy, was killed in the home she was building for her family by the man she thought would protect her. After realizing Misha had no pulse and was no longer breathing, Dwayne later told investigators he was consumed by a storm of rage, guilt, and disbelief. "I killed the love of my life and my baby," he confessed during his interview, saying he couldn't picture his life without his child, that he shouldn't have done it. But the horror didn't end with her death. What followed was an attempt to hide the unimaginable. Dwayne said that in a panicked state, he tried to use the machete to dismember Misha's body. When that proved too difficult, he left their home and purchased a chainsaw. He returned and used it to sever her arms and legs from her torso. He left her head and torso intact, then placed the dismembered remains into 3 separate black trash bags. Dwayne then walked the bags to a dumpster on base, bags that held not only his wife, but their unborn daughter, Armani. He dumped them, knowing they would be picked up and taken to a local waste processing facility. Investigators believe Misha's remains were incinerated shortly after. To this day, her family has never been able to recover her body. There was no funeral, no grave, no final goodbye. So, for nearly 3 agonizing weeks after Misha's murder, Dwayne lived a double life, carrying the weight of what he'd done while carefully crafting a lie for the world to believe. Then, in a shocking twist of deception, he made a move no one saw coming. On July 31, 2024, he officially reported Misha missing. He stood before police, neighbors, and her grieving family, feigning concern. He joined the search efforts, handed out flyers, and even messaged her loved ones from her phone, pretending she was still alive. But his performance was only just beginning. He texted Misha's sister and mother, offering casual updates like, "I just need some space," or "I'm okay," in what prosecutors would later describe as an attempt to stall suspicion and cover his tracks. He even helped organize parts of the search party, walking beside the very people who were desperately praying she'd be found safe. In court, these actions were labeled not just deceptive but deeply sinister, evidence of a man who understood exactly what he had done and was willing to manipulate the pain of others to protect himself. While he played the role of a grieving husband, investigators were quietly uncovering the truth. Behind the scenes, investigators from the Department of the Army's Criminal Investigation Division were growing increasingly uneasy. Misha's sudden disappearance, Dwayne's behavior, and the inconsistencies in his story raised immediate red flags. Forensic teams were brought in to search Dwayne's on-base home. What they found was horrifying. They found bloodstains in the bedroom. traces of DNA, signs of a cleanup. From those findings, a chilling timeline began to take shape. Misha hadn't vanished. She had been silenced, and the man who claimed to love her had spent nearly 3 weeks pretending she was still alive. And soon, everything he tried to hide would come to light. Then, on August 27, 2024, more than 6 weeks after Misha was killed, Dwayne Johnson, too, was formally charged with her murder. By then, investigators had uncovered a digital trail that painted a disturbing picture of a man who not only took 2 lives but seemed to be preparing to move on without remorse. Court records revealed that Johnson had been actively messaging at least 18 women on the dating app BLK both before and after Misha's death. Photos extracted from his phone showed him engaging in intimate acts with another woman. Even more shocking, digital messages suggested he had made plans with her, plans to get married, have children, and build a life together. These weren't just flirtations, they were detailed exchanges about a future that excluded Misha and the child he had taken from the world. To Misha's devastated family, the betrayal was unfathomable.
He had been on a dating app and reached out to 18 women while my sister's blood was still wet under their floors. That was disgusting.
The same man who publicly helped search for her, who texted her family pretending to be her, had already started laying the foundation for a new life. The heartbreak only deepened with each new revelation. Investigators also testified that Johnson had been under separate investigation for alleged possession of child pornography. Although those charges were later dropped as part of a plea deal, they cast a shadow over the full scope of his behavior and intent. But the chilling evidence was just starting. Army CD agents revealed that Dwayne's internet search history included terms related to how to dismember a body, how to clean a crime scene, and how to avoid getting caught. Each click added weight to the case. This wasn't an impulsive act, they argued, but a carefully concealed crime.
Like the puzzle pieces, right? The puzzle pieces all kind of aligned when we were in court, and everything was clicking for me.
Dwayne Johnson was arrested and placed in custody. His charges included murder, obstruction of justice, and giving false official statements. At first, he claimed innocence, but finally said the words no one expected.
Cameras were not allowed at the courtroom at Wheeler. However, we did watch a live feed from here at Schofield Barracks. This is the first time we have Private First Class Dwayne Johnson. I can tell you he did look proper in the courtroom. He was clean cut, clean shaven. He had his full dress uniform on, and he was very polite to the judge. Answered, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. But he was very stoic and emotionless when talking about the night he killed the woman he called the love of his life.
However, on June 3, 2025, at a court-martial in Wahiawa, Hawaii, he changed his plea. He admitted to killing Misha and her unborn child. As part of a plea agreement, he pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter, obstruction, and false statements. Additional charges were dropped in exchange for his full confession. During sentencing, Dwayne addressed the courtroom. He offered an apology to Misha's family, his loved ones, and his fellow soldiers. My wife didn't deserve that, he said. She wasn't trash. I hate myself for what I did every day. He described Misha as kind and said, I love Misha and my child more than myself. They both deserved so much more. I failed as a husband. I failed as a father, and I failed as a man. I'll forever be sorry. He was sentenced to the maximum, 23 years in prison.
First set for the Schofield soldier who confessed to killing his pregnant wife is getting the maximum sentence behind bars of 23 years.
It's been almost a year since Dwayne Johnson killed his wife, Misha Johnson, and faked her disappearance. Family members were completely distraught during and after the sentencing. And a warning, the details of this case are graphic.
He was reduced to the lowest rank, dishonorably discharged, and stripped of all pay and benefits. He will serve his sentence at Fort Leavenworth, a military prison in Kansas. The courtroom was filled with emotion. Several members of Misha's family took the stand, their grief overwhelming. Her mother, Frances Tepes-Andrian, broke down, describing the pain of living without her daughter. It's unbearable, she said through tears. I struggle every day and night. Losing a person isn't losing a relationship, it's losing a piece of yourself.
I can't speak for my family, but in terms of myself, I understand that with the body missing, this case was already hard.
When asked how it felt to spend Mother's Day without her daughter, Frances responded with one word, empty. Misha's sister, Mariana Tepes, spoke about the dreams they shared. Misha had been her best friend and was supposed to be her maid of honor. Now she says there's a void in her heart that will never be filled. They'll never be able to bury her or Armani.
We're never going to be able to bury her or Armani. My mom can't bury her daughter.
Still, the family is trying to focus on the light Misha brought into their lives.
As a family together, we're just trying not to focus on the horrific details of her last moments with him, and instead right now we're trying to just remember the happy memories that we have, and remember her in that light.
They want to remember the happy memories that they had together and remember her in that light. Meanwhile, Dwayne's own family testified in disbelief. His father, Dwayne Johnson Sr., and 3 brothers called in from Maryland. They said the crime seemed out of character, describing him as raised in a faith-based home and active in community service.
To hear the specifics of what led up to him killing her and Armani, that was kind of, after I got over the initial shock, it was quite painful.
Still, they struggled to understand how the man they knew could commit such an act. A GoFundMe campaign has been created to honor the memory of Misha and her unborn baby, Armani. The fundraiser was launched by loved ones to help cover memorial expenses, support the grieving family, and raise awareness about the devastating impact of domestic violence. Misha's family hopes the campaign will not only offer some relief during this unimaginable time, but also serve as a way to keep her and Armani's names alive. Supporters from across the country have already begun contributing, sharing messages of love, heartbreak, and solidarity. Because Misha's remains were never recovered, the family held a memorial instead of a traditional funeral. Friends, classmates, and loved ones gathered in her hometown to remember her life. Photos of her smiling, pregnant, and filled with anticipation were placed next to candles and letters. Her unborn child was mourned alongside her. People spoke of her warmth, her dreams, and the future she was building. The ceremony was filled with tears and silence as mourners tried to make sense of the senseless. Many left with more questions than answers, shaken by the brutal way her life was taken. Now, serious questions remain. How did no one see the warning signs? Could the system have intervened? And why did the legal outcome stop at voluntary manslaughter when so much was lost?
I think it should have been a lot longer, definitely. Definitely a lot longer. Because he still has some of his life to live, and who knows, maybe offend again.
Domestic violence and legal experts are questioning why Army prosecutors were willing to give Johnson such a favorable plea deal when there was a lot of circumstantial evidence. Investigators say they found the victim's blood under the flooring in the home, evidence of a cover-up, and the new women on Johnson's phone, all before they made their deal of manslaughter and a maximum 23-year sentence. Defense attorney and former prosecutor Megan Cow said that could be sufficient even without a body in a trial.
This is the most gruesome, heinous thing that we have seen in Hawaii. And sadly, though, she's not the first. She will not be the last unless we change things.
I wasn't aware of any marital problems that they were having, but I told her, you can always come back home.
This case highlights the urgent need to protect vulnerable spouses within military communities. Isolation, rigid hierarchies, and stigma often keep victims from speaking up.
Misha was just 15 minutes away from us, but she was still taken. My hope is that Misha's story, Misha's case, brings resources to women that are away from their families to give them a safe place.
Misha's story is a call to action for reforms within the military justice system and stronger support networks on base. What do you think about it? Let us know what you think in the comments below.